The evening shadows had begun to deepen. I was walking briskly, almost running, as I reached the bus stop. It was a bit of a distance from my office, and I had quickened my pace because I always felt uneasy after sunset. The road was always quiet, almost eerily deserted. Just as I arrived at the stop, the bus pulled away right in front of me. Now I had no choice but to wait for the next one. In that heavy silence, I quietly sat on the bench, waiting. A few moments later, a woman cloaked in a large shawl came and sat beside me. Since she was a woman, I didn't feel threatened at first, but soon I noticed her staring at me intently, continuously. An odd restlessness crept into me. I tried to ignore it, brushing it off at first, but when her gaze didn't relent and began to make me uncomfortable, I finally turned to her and asked sharply, "What's your problem?" To my surprise, instead of reacting angrily to my tone, she smiled. "You're very sweet and beautiful," she said. "I've never seen such a pretty girl." Her tone was unusually friendly, as if she already knew me. I wasn't someone who warmed up to strangers easily, so I simply shook my head dismissively and turned my eyes the other way. "Do you work somewhere?" she asked, unprompted. "Yes," I replied curtly, not offering any more, and turned to check the time. It was 8 p.m. already, and there was still no sign of the next bus. If only I had reached 5 minutes earlier, I thought regretfully. I would have caught the previous bus. My irritation shifted to my boss, who had kept me at the office so late. Everyone else had left, and now I was stranded. The area I lived in didn't have many buses at night, so getting home would be tricky. The shawled woman must have noticed my growing anxiety. "Don't worry," she said casually. "The bus will come." Her overly familiar tone was beginning to irritate me now, but before I could react, the bus finally arrived. Thank God. Without saying another word, I hurried toward the bus and climbed aboard, not looking back. She remained seated. I spent the entire journey whispering prayers under my breath, trying to calm my nerves. When I finally reached my area, I still had a long walk ahead. The stretch from the stop to home felt even longer that night, but I continued reciting supplications until I reached the gate. As soon as I entered the house, I was met with my mother's stern, disappointed expression. "This is no time to be getting home," she scolded. "First, you took that job against everyone's wishes, and now you're coming back late in the dark. Don't you know what people in the neighborhood are saying? That we're living off our daughter's earnings." I lowered my head, guilt stinging my heart. "Ami, it was just that Sir kept me back today. There's an audit coming up. There's so much work." I tried to coax her with a soft, apologetic tone. "You know your father's against you working like this. He just wants to get you married as soon as possible. And do you even know how much the extended family gossips about your job? They make it sound like we're dependent on your salary." I stayed quiet. "At least your father isn't home yet," she added. "If he'd come before you, he would have lost his temper completely by now." Her frustration was obvious, and her words carried the weight of genuine concern. I kissed her forehead gently. "I promise, Ami. From now on, I won't come home late again." She looked at me with a mix of love and worry and finally said, "Fine, now go freshen up quickly. Your father shouldn't find out about this. You've come home after dark again." Ami's words stung, but I quickly went to change out of my clothes and joined her at dinner. Slowly, over bites of warm food, I began chatting with her, letting the worries of the day melt away, completely forgetting about the strange woman from the bus stop and her unsettling stares. The next day at the office was just as overwhelming. The pile of work never seemed to end, and my boss, known for his short temper, was unusually irritable. I barely had the courage to speak up around him. By the time I realized the sun was setting and Maghrib had arrived, it hit me. I should have left earlier. When I went to ask for permission to leave, he snapped, "Miss Jabin, you always seem to have an excuse to leave early. There are only a few days in the year when we're under this much pressure. If your family doesn't allow you to stay late, then why are you even working?" His tone silenced me. I swallowed my response, stayed an extra hour, and finally left around 8 p.m. As I stepped outside, I felt a cold chill down my spine. The area around my office wasn't residential. It was filled with offices and warehouses, and after sunset, it turned into a ghost town. I hurried my steps toward the bus stop. Once again, I was unlucky. The bus had just left. The next one wouldn't arrive for another half hour. Sighing, I sat quietly on the bench and distracted myself with my phone. But then, she appeared again. The same woman wrapped in that shawl came and sat beside me. This time, my heart skipped a beat. Why was she here again? Something about her presence felt deeply unsettling. I didn't even look at her, just kept my eyes glued to the screen, pretending not to notice. But she spoke anyway. Why do you work? Is it out of need? Or is it just something you like doing? I didn't respond. I just glanced at her with a piercing stare, hoping that would end the conversation. For a second, she seemed to hesitate, then smiled faintly. Will you be my friend? I really like you. Her offer sent a surge of anger through me. I don't like talking to strangers, I snapped. Please don't speak to me. Thankfully, she didn't say anything after that. But those 30 minutes felt like an eternity. On the surface, I was scrolling through my phone, but inside, I was panicking. I could feel her eyes scanning me, analyzing for every inch of my being. Cold sweat clung to my skin, and I just kept praying for the bus to arrive. When it finally did, I jumped in without looking back. At home, Ami gave me a quick glance, but then my eyes shifted to the man sitting quietly behind her. Abba, he was already home. My heart dropped. This was the last day of your job, he said firmly. From tomorrow onward, you're not stepping foot out for work. This is no time for a woman to be coming home. What if something happened to you? What if people start talking? You've brought disgrace to our name just because of your obsession with a job. He didn't stop there. I've already spoken to a few families about your marriage. Your studies are complete. It's time you got married. If your husband allows you to work, fine, then do it from his house. But from this house, you'll not be working anymore. His words cut deep. Before I could even open my mouth to protest, he got up and went to his room. How could I argue with my father? I didn't even have the courage to speak. So the next day, I didn't go to work. Instead, I sent in my resignation via email and sat there, broken. Tears ran down my face. Working wasn't just something I did, it was something I loved. And now I had to let go of that passion because of Abba. Still, I stayed quiet. What else could I do? Soon the proposals Abba had arranged started coming in. One evening, Ami came to me excitedly. There's a proposal from a very respectable family, she said. They're good people. Get ready properly, okay? At Ami's insistence, I got fully dressed and went to the drawing room to meet the guests, but the moment I stepped in, it felt as if the ground slipped from beneath my feet. There she was. The same woman wrapped in a shawl, the one from the bus stop, was now sitting calmly in our living room. My eyes widened in disbelief, and a cold shiver ran down my spine. On her face was a soft, confident smile. Sister, I promise you, she said, addressing my mother politely, your daughter will be very happy with us. We lack nothing. She will be treated like a queen. She continued speaking kindly, assuring Ami of everything, comfort, respect, prosperity. But inside me, a storm was raging. What kind of twisted coincidence was this? The same woman who made me so uncomfortable at the bus stop was now here in our home, evaluating me again. This time openly, boldly, without hesitation. Ami, on the other hand, was showering her with attention, serving her tea and speaking to her like an honored guest. Angry and shaken, I quietly turned back and stormed off to my room. When she finally left, I confronted Ami. Who was that woman, and who invited her here? Ami replied calmly. She brought a marriage proposal through someone we know. That's why I didn't refuse to meet her. They are very wealthy people. Nothing is lacking in their home. Your father personally investigated everything before allowing this meeting. My mind couldn't make sense of it. Wealthy, that woman? The same one who loiters around bus stops with no car, no driver? I couldn't hold back. She's lying, Ami. She doesn't look rich to me at all. Ami chuckled gently at my suspicion. You don't know anything, she said. Your Abba looked into it thoroughly. Actually, she brought a proposal for her husband. She wants you to become his second wife. My world shattered. I stared at her, thinking this had to be a joke. But Ami's face was serious. She took my hand, sat me down, and said softly, Jabin, in families like ours, getting proposals is already difficult. Your own relatives have said clearly they don't want a daughter-in-law who works. Even the neighbors whisper the same things. She's a working woman, too modern for our traditions. Tell me, in this situation, where would a better proposal come from? She has no children, Ami continued. That's why she wants her husband to marry again. She promised your Abba that you'd lack for nothing in their home. She will personally make sure your rights are fulfilled. Your Abba even met her husband. He's a good religious man. Just think, she said, your life could completely change. But I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could my own mother, the woman who raised me, be willing to marry me off as someone's second wife? And more shocking still, that the first wife had come herself to offer me up. I lost control. I don't care how rich they are, I shouted. I would rather marry a poor man than become someone's second wife, especially when the first wife is still living under the same roof. Ami's face turned red with anger. Have you seen your Fupo's daughters? She snapped. They've all married into wealthy families. Now they walk into every family gathering like queens. They arrive in big cars, dressed in expensive clothes, and they don't even greet us anymore. They think we're beneath them. I want you to shine like them, she said bitterly. I want you to ride in big cars, wear silk and gold, and walk into family events with your head held high. So your Fupo and the rest know we're not beggars. Her words revealed the truth. Suddenly, everything made sense. This proposal, this entire setup, wasn't about me or my happiness. It was about status, about showing the world, and especially our relatives, that we weren't small people. And in that moment, I finally understood why Ami had agreed so quickly. In frustration, I turned to Ami and cried out, "Why are you throwing me into the hands of a married man just to compete with Fupo's daughters?" But Ami's attitude had hardened. She had made up her mind. She had convinced herself that my marriage had to be a way to one-up her sister, and nothing I said could change that. I tried to talk to Abba next, but even he didn't listen. This is the result of all that freedom you took through your job, he said coldly. I've already agreed to the proposal. You'll see. Soon enough, you'll realize I made the right decision for you. Without considering my feelings, Abba arranged everything. The following week, after emotionally blackmailing me, they quietly conducted the nikah and sent me off. Just like that. The same woman, yes, the same one who had been showing up at the bus stop, was now holding my hand and taking me into her grand house. She led me into a lavish bedroom adorned with flowers, sat me down, and stared at me calmly. I, meanwhile, sat there trembling, my eyes filled with tears, my heart burning with rage. I hated her. If it weren't for her, maybe I wouldn't be bound in this forced relationship today. She noticed my tears and said, Jabin, what's there to cry about? I brought you here as my co-wife with complete happiness. I couldn't give my husband a child, so now he's been thinking about taking a third wife. And when I met you, I felt you were the one. There was a fire in your eyes, a fire I want to bring into my husband's life. Her words stunned me. Third wife? What did she mean by third? Another woman? I felt dizzy. My ears were ringing. Then she called out calmly, Miriam, come in, meet your new co-wife. A girl about my age walked into the room. She was stunning, elegant, poised, and beautiful. I stared at her in disbelief. This is Mariam, said Bilkis, the first wife. She's the second wife of our shared husband, Zamir. I was speechless. You tricked us, I muttered. You lied to me. And to my family. Bilkis laughed softly. Where's the lie in it? She said casually. If you can handle one co-wife, you can handle two. We're not here to fight you. We'll be friends. Sisters, even. I couldn't process it. I just kept staring at them. Bilkis continued. The day I met you at the bus stop, I was actually on my way to meet another girl for Zamir, but the car broke down and the driver told me to book a cab. I hadn't taken the bus in ages, so I sat at the bus stop and then I saw you. The fire in your eyes, it was exactly what I was looking for. She smiled again, and I couldn't help but ask bitterly, whom do you want me to burn with that fire? Bilkis stepped closer and glanced at Miriam. We all have one target, she said quietly. And now you will help us bring him down. Our husband, Zamir. She paused, her voice turned somber. He's an old, impotent man who craves young women. I can bear children, but he can't father any. To hide that fact, he falsified my medical reports and blamed me. He made me out to be barren, Bilkis said bitterly, and then married Mariam. But when Mariam also failed to conceive, and her reports came back exactly like mine, I finally understood. This is all a game played by that rich, aging man. That's why this time I chose you, she said, pointing at me with a calm certainty. Together, the three of us are going to destroy him in a way he'll never forget. He's not even capable of fathering a child, yet he dares to label us as barren. He must learn, she continued with rising fury, that a woman is not a cheap object he can use and discard. I want us three to make him regret every moment of deception. He's going to remember for the rest of his life what a spineless, impotent old man he truly is. Her words left me shaken. She had destroyed my life just to take revenge, and my parents, blinded by status and fear, had handed me over without a second thought. Abba thought my job had ruined my prospects for a good match. Ami wanted to compete with Fupo's rich daughters, and now, here I was. I stared at both women in anger. I won't join you, never, I said sharply. And how do I know you're telling the truth? For all I know, you're trapping me in something sinister. I want to go home right now. Mariam exchanged a glance with Bilkis, then silently walked over to the closet and pulled out a file. She placed it in front of me. These are the medical reports, she said calmly. You're educated. Read them yourself. You'll understand who the real problem is. And if you still don't believe us, she added, spend a few days with Zamir. You'll see. In no time, he'll label you barren too and start scouting for a fourth wife. Then you'll know we were telling the truth. I was still furious. If that's the case, I snapped at Bilkis. Why don't you just leave him? Go back to your own family instead of ruining other girls' lives. Tears welled up in her eyes. We can't, she whispered. This world doesn't let us. The chains of this society have locked our feet in place. Even if you go back to your parents, do you think they'll accept you? No. They'll tell you to adjust and send you right back. Our parents did the same to us. As painful as it was, her words had a bitter truth to them. I finally understood what they were trying to say. So I agreed. To survive, to reclaim control. They handed me a small vial. Give this to Zamir tonight as soon as he enters the room, Bilkis instructed. He'll pass out before he can even touch you. Your purity will remain intact. Slowly, this medicine will start weakening his body, Mariam added. We've been giving it to him too. One day, he'll be bedridden for good. And the three of us will finally live freely. I silently took the vial in my hand. They left. A while later, Zamir entered, a man around 50 with a paunch and puffed confidence, his smile full of lust, his eyes scanning me like prey. In that moment, I knew those women had spoken the truth. Quietly, I mixed the powder into his glass of milk and handed it to him. Within minutes, he was asleep, deep, unshakable sleep. And I sat across the room in silence, no longer afraid. My mind filled not with revenge, but with hope. I wanted to work again. I wanted to rebuild my career. And one day, I would marry on my terms, to someone who saw me as a partner, not a possession. The next morning, when Zamir woke up, I pretended to be angry. I acted as if I was upset that he'd slept without saying a word. It worked. Flustered and apologetic, he tried to make amends. That's when I calmly asked for permission to return to work. He agreed gladly. And just like that, I resumed my job while continuing to slip him the medicine. Zamir never knew, but I did. I was no longer the girl waiting at a bus stop. I was a woman who had reclaimed her path, even if it meant walking through fire to find it. Whenever Zamir was with any of us, we would slip him that same medicine. Gradually, his body began to weaken. Even standing up, walking, or sitting for long periods became difficult for him. He often seemed confused, wondering what was happening to his health. But every time he brought up going to the hospital, the three of us would persuade him not to. We would laugh and tease him lovingly, saying, "You're trying to satisfy 3 wives. No wonder your health is collapsing." And he believed us. Zamir was convinced that his physical decline was due to his desire to please 3 women. So he stopped resisting, and we kept giving him the medication, regularly, strategically. After 6 months, Zamir became completely bedridden. His body was unresponsive. He couldn't even think about marrying again. We hired a man to take care of him. We paid him a salary, and he managed Zamir's daily needs. I, on the other hand, had returned to my job and was building a future for myself. My 2 co-wives spent their time shopping, socializing, and living freely because money was never a problem. Zamir was rich. One day, Bilkis, the eldest, came to me and said, "Why don't you run Zamir's business? Why work for others when you can manage your own empire?" I considered it carefully, and then I took over. But I was honest with both of them. I had legal documents drafted, dividing the business equally among the 3 of us. Then, through subtle manipulation, I got Zamir to sign them all. Now the business and the house we lived in was legally ours. Zamir had spent years telling society that we were barren, while in reality it was he who was incapable of fathering a child. We gave him the punishment he deserved, a lifelong sentence. Today, the 3 of us live happily. Yes, Zamir is still a part of our lives, but only as a silent, fading figure in the background. Sooner or later, he'll be gone, and when that day comes, so will our freedom. Until then, we live like sisters, like allies, like survivors now. When I step out of my luxury car at family functions, heads turn. My mother's eyes shine with pride. She doesn't know what really happens behind closed doors. I've never told her, because I know now, it doesn't matter. I'm married. And in this society, a married woman is expected to carry her marriage to the grave no matter what. I've also renovated my parents' home. I even bought them a small car. They adore me now, treasure me, because I changed their lives. But inside, I am empty. Only I know how hollow I truly am. Maybe one day that emptiness will disappear if someone enters my life who truly loves me. But then I wonder, who would ever marry someone like me? A woman with this past, this burden. I don't know what the future holds, but yes, today, I am content. I've made peace with my life. And if there's one thing I want to tell all of you, reading or listening, it's this. Not every woman is another woman's enemy. Sometimes, just sometimes, a woman can save another woman's life. She can rebuild it piece by piece. Now tell me, do you think we did the right thing to Zamir? Do men in high society who blame women for everything, despite hiding their own flaws, not deserve to be punished too?